Endometriosis. It's been a while since my last video. That's because, as I mentioned in my talk at WeHi, I ran out of treatment options and had to have emergency surgery at the start of this year to remove my colon after my bowel perforated. Not a lot of fun, and I don't recommend it, but I'm still here. Interestingly, my pathology report revealed that in addition to my ulcerative colitis, I also had or have endometriosis. Endometriosis is where the type of tissue that normally lines the uterus, called endometrium, it grows where it shouldn't. In my case, it was growing on my colon. That might explain my atypical presentation of ulcerative colitis, where my main symptoms were pain and constipation. Interestingly, I also had or have endosalpingiosis, which is where fallopian glands appear where they shouldn't. So kind of same but different. Endosalpingiosis is considered rare and benign, so there isn't a lot of information about it, but a retrospective review has suggested it's far more prevalent than thought and may not be as benign as thought, but it really isn't clear and more research is needed. Endometriosis is usually described as endometrium growing on other parts of reproductive organs like ovaries and fallopian tubes, but it can get further afield, as in my case, where it's appeared on my colon. What happens is that this tissue gets triggered with menstruation cycles and becomes inflamed wherever it is, and we know inflammation brings the pain. Links have been suggested between endometriosis and inflammatory bowel diseases. Links have been suggested between inflammatory bowel diseases and NLRP3. So what do we know about endometriosis and NLRP3? Last year I did a short video about menstruation and whether it can trigger flares in CAPS. Spoiler alert, it can. To build on that, two of the key hormones involved in menstruation are estrogen and progesterone. Estrogen and progesterone levels ultimately affect gene expression. Broadly speaking, estrogen activates NLRP3 and progesterone deactivates it. Estrogen is most highly expressed in the window between menstruation and ovulation, with progesterone at its highest levels after ovulation, so after day 14 in a 28-day cycle. A study was published last year where they had used an NLRP3 inhibitor on ovarian endometriosis cells from human patients and also on mouse models of ovarian endometriosis. In the human patient cells, they found that the NLRP3 inhibitor reduced the survival of the cells, which is a good thing, reduced co-localization of NLRP3 and interleukin-1 beta, which is also a good thing. If they're kept apart, then the pro-inflammatory cytokine interleukin-1 beta can't get activated. And unsurprisingly, they found lower concentrations of interleukin-1 beta in the supernatant, which is the liquid surrounding the cells. In the mouse models, they found that the NLRP3 inhibitor reduced the size of the endometriotic lesions, and again they found lower levels of interleukin-1 beta in cells associated with ovarian endometriosis. They concluded that NLRP3 inhibitors might be useful in treating ovarian endometriosis. In a 2021 study from China, they experimentally showed that estrogen activated NLRP3 and increased interleukin-1 beta output from mast cells. Mast cells are a type of immune cell which are found in high numbers in endometriotic lesions. So they used mice cells, mouse models, cell systems, and patient tissue samples for their investigation, which also found that the interleukin-1 receptor 1, the receptor used by interleukin-1 beta, was overexpressed in ectopic endometrium, which is the stuff that's growing in the wrong place. So now I want to know, is there a higher incidence of endometriosis in CAPS patients with overactive NLRP3? Anecdotally, it seems like there is, but all I can find in the literature is a single case study in 2017 that involved one CAPS patient with a T348M mutation who had endometriosis. I'm also wondering, if we CAPS patients do get endometriosis, are we generally going to be on the more severe side of the disease because of our excessive inflammation? And do conventional therapies like estrogen blockers work for us when our NLRP3 is overactive all by itself? Again, anecdotally, I've heard that they do work. Wouldn't it be great though to see a study done along these lines for CAPS patients?